Hello and welcome to Ginger Prime. My name is Brian, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back Soul Nation. You're beautiful and downright deadly, and that's what you get for subscribing, by the way, a free compliment at the start of these videos. But in today's video, we're diving into the classes for Outriders, and this is to hopefully help you get started on the right foot with the class that fits your playstyle best. This is the first real question the game asks you, and so this is how the video is going to flow. I'm going to give a brief summary of the 4 classes, and then we're going to do a deeper dive into each one for you. If you want to just jump to a specific class and get more details on it, check the playhead here on YouTube, just to skip to the part of the video that best interests you. But let's go ahead and dive in. If you're not aware, Outriders is a third-person action RPG looter shooter developed by People Can Fly and published by Square Enix, and it's on all platforms with full crossplay support right out of the gate, so you're going to be able to grab up to 3 of your friends and go play through this game. The game features a full campaign that can be played solo or co-op with your friends, and it thus making picking the right class pivotal to your experience. So for Outriders, it features 4 classes: the Trickster, the Pyromancer, the Devastator, and the Technomancer. And each of these classes have 8 skills that you're going to unlock by leveling up in the game. And you're going to be able to mix and match these skills at any time too, as long as they're not on cooldown. But let's go ahead and dive into our class overview. Each class has 3 skill trees that you can spec out, and this is going to help boost your passive abilities and thus make your build a little bit more unique. Pairing this with the weapons and the perks from the weapons and the mods from the weapons, you're going to have the ability to create truly unique classes for this game. But you're also going to not be able to complete each tree for each class. But the nice thing is that resetting your skill trees is completely free, so you can change your build up pretty much at any time. So who are these classes for? Well, the Trickster, you're going to be your assassin class. This is going to be for those who like to get in and out of combat really quickly. But the nice thing is that with the Trickster, you can still actually spec them as a tank if desired. Tricksters are the masters of space and time magic, and you can actually teleport in and out of situations as you desire, so pairing up your skills is going to allow you to have very unique ways of playing the Trickster. Players who also enjoy mid-range combat and close-range combat should consider this class. The Trickster does also heal themselves by killing at close range, which is somewhat similar to the Devastator, but with the Trickster you actually get shields for your class. Now, the Pyromancer is a mid-range fire-wielding damage machine. This class has a lot of area of effect skills and also damage over time effects. Now, whenever you use any of your skills on enemies, they're going to get marked, and if they're killed by you or any others in your party, you'll actually heal, and that's how the Pyromancer heals in combat. Pyromancers also have a lot of build options, and if you select the Tempest tree, you can actually play and build them as a tank class too. Now, the Devastator is for players who want to be up close and personal in combat. They're going to bring earth and gravity powers into the mix. This is going to allow you to build out a tank if you wish, but it also controls the pace of combat with their unique abilities and closing the gap ability, which is going to bring a wide range of damage into play. Now, Devastators heal themselves when enemies die around them, regardless of the source of the kill. And also by being close, the Devastator is going to get buffs that they can actually increase their damage and resistance and so much more. And finally, you have the Technomancer class. This is a class for players who love to be the lone wolf or who love long-range gameplay. Great with sniper weapons, and also it's the only class that can heal themselves as well as heal others in their party. But that doesn't just make them a healer or a support class. Technomancers can actually create weapons out of thin air and place them on the ground. They're going to heal themselves by doing damage to enemies, and so it is a healer pet style class, obviously using rockets and machine guns and big old chain guns, which give them a lot of unique abilities. Like their rockets are actually going to be able to stun and interrupt enemies as well. So you have the ability to heal, the ability to do crowd control, and so much more. Especially, they are also attuned to the element of ice and poison. So they have a lot of toxic abilities, a lot of ice magic as well. Honestly, all of these classes are going to be great. So hopefully this gives you a good summary of where you want to start. But let's go ahead and dive into more of the details about each class themselves. So like we covered, the Trickster is going to be for those who want to get in and out of the combat really quickly. Pairing your different skills to be able to teleport and jump in and out are going to be key to your success as the Trickster, as well as being able to be around enemies when they die so that you're going to heal yourself. And that's a big part of that. You'll see this throughout all of the classes. This is very action focused. It's not about staying behind cover to recover. It's all about doing damage to heal and then synergizing with your party as well. But like I said, they're focused around space space and time powers. Like for example, your melee is going to be able to hit enemies and stun and slow them. And you actually have two forms of melee attacks. You have kind of your single melee when you're standing still, and you have a running melee, which is going to be an AoE blast melee to be able to stun and slow enemies near you. Now, like we said, when they heal, they're actually going to get shields at close range. The Trickster is only going to get healed when killing in close range. Plus, you're also going to get that shield, which is going to help mitigate damage and thus make it easier for you to survive. Some of the examples of the powers that the Trickster is going to get is Temporal Slice. This is the first power you unlock, and all enemies that get hit by Temporal Slice are going to be paralyzed and slowed greatly. You can also then use Borrowed Time. This is going to gain a percentage of your maximum health as a shield, and using this power is actually going to create a time clone so you can move about using Borrowed Time, and if you reuse this skill, it's actually going to teleport you back to where you set the clone in the first place. So this is a really good way to get out of situations when they're not necessarily going in your favor. Then you also have the ability called Slow Trap. This is going to create a dome around you which slows enemies and projectiles accordingly. If you ever played Diablo, you'll probably, if you ever seen a wizard use a time bubble, this is very similar to that. So you can actually slow enemies. You can also use this to heal up and res your teammates while enemies are rushing. It's going to help protect you to allow you to get those resurrections off in this case. Then you also have an ability called Hunt the Prey. This is going to let you highlight any visible enemy, and then when you use the skill, it will actually teleport you behind them, and it's going to give you a shield. So if you think about combos within like the skill system, Hunt the Prey and Borrowed Time, putting off Borrowed Time at first and then using Hunt the Prey, you'll be able to teleport all around the map, pick off solo enemies, or jump into the fray with a whole herd of enemies, and then use Borrowed Time again to be able to get yourself back out of that situation and back into kind of a mid-range combat cycle. It's truly fantastic. Now for the Trickster, they have 3 skill trees. You have Master of Space, Harbinger, and Assassin. The Master of Space is going to be bonused while the player is moving. This is going to improve your close range combat, combat with shotguns, combat with any kind of close range weapon you'll find in the game. You also have Harbinger. This is going to be the tank path if you choose this for your Trickster. This is going to focus around damage mitigation and different shield bonuses. And finally, you have the Assassin. This is going to focus on around increasing your skill damage output, giving you more power and more skill leech from the enemies themselves. So this is overall going to increase your damage output as an assassin. So you can play around with that. Now again, just like we said at the intro of this video, you can actually mix and match skill trees a little bit. Each skill tree kind of has a branch in between the pathways, but just note that you're not going to be able to fill out the entire tree. You can always reset them from there. Now, if we dive into the Pyromancer, we said fire-based powers are their bread and butter. So for players wanting to check this one out, this is one of the players who want to take on hordes of enemies at once with a lot of area of effect-based skills and a lot of fire damage over time skills. But the total focus of combat is going to be that of mid-range combat itself. You're thinking of the fundamentals being explosive, immobilizing, and igniting different enemies, and based off of the enemies that you hit with your skills, that's going to help you heal yourself by the enemies that you have marked. Whether you kill them or they die from a party member, any enemy that's been marked by the Pyromancer will heal when they die as long as they've been marked. Now, for some examples, some powers that you might be interested in, you have the ability to put on a lot of different status effects and burning. So their standard melee attack is going to deal fire damage to anyone it hits, and thus you're going to see that AoE dot that is applied to them. Now for their powers, you have Thermal Bomb. This is going to set enemies on fire, and it's going to deal damage over time to them. If they die, they're actually going to raise up in the air and explode, and that explosion is going to hit any other enemies near them. And this can actually chain up to multiple enemies as well. So you can actually set off entire explosion bombs just by being able to use Thermal Bomb and killing enemies after enemy. Now you have Ash Blast. This is more of crowd control skills. This is going to help prevent them from overrunning you with different attacks. Or you can use it offensively to really kind of set enemies in their spot and hit them in the head for easy to line up headshots. Ash Blast is a crowd control, which is going to prevent them from doing anything for a few seconds, and it looks visually very impressive. Then you have Heat Wave. This is going to be a wave of fire going forward, hitting all the enemies. Now, if the enemies try to rush you with Heat Wave, you can actually keep them at bay. And that burn status effect is also going to do more damage over time to them. And finally, you have Overheat. This is going to deal a small amount of damage to enemies, but in fact, it actually does more damage to enemies that are already burning. So this is a great combo skill to combo with Heat Wave or even your melee. So you have a lot of options with the Pyromancer. Now, regarding their skill trees, you have Ashbreaker, Firestorm, and Tempest. Ashbreaker is going to boost your damage to all your marked enemies. Thinking of pairing this with Ash Blast, this is going to help just overall increase any of your damage output. Then you have Firestorm. It's skill damage, and it's going to be focusing on maximizing your damage output with all of your different skills. And then finally, you have Tempest. This is the tank role, and it's going to maximize out your health bonus and increase your damage resistances, as well as they even have a skill that's going to have you auto-revive on death. So if you really like that option, if you're a Final Fantasy player and you love that re-raise, this might be a really good class for you to start out with, especially with that ability making you very versatile on the battlefield. Now we come to the Devastator. This is a class that's going to be focusing in on close range with powers of earth and gravity. Thinking basically as a mindset, this is your default tank class. Anybody who's thinking they really want to be a tank, this might be the best place to start them right at the beginning. Now you're going to determine the flow of battle because you also have a number of interrupt skills, and you also are going to be players. This is really for players who love to go toe to toe. So this is something that you should consider if this is the kind of player you are. The Devastator is going to be right up your path. The fundamentals of this class are that they are focused around earth and gravity magic, focusing on kinetic damage, protection, and seismic shifting powers. Their melee effects actually a bleeding over time effect on enemies that it hits, and you heal up when enemies die around you at close range. This is also going to give you an upgrade to your armor and your abilities, so this is going to be an overall kind of general flow to the Devastator. You want to be up close and personal, and their powers help power that. For example, you have Gravity Leap. This is going to have you jump up in the air, and then pressing again is going to have you slam down into enemies, and this will also interrupt boss skills. Thus, you also have the ability called Reflect Bullets. This is going to put up a shield, and any bullets that actually hit the shield are going to stop from hitting you. When the skill ends, or you use it again, all of the caught bullets are going to be returned to the enemies that fired them, or in a straight line, Then you have Impale. This is going to have you basically shoot up earth spikes to impale enemies and interrupt their skills. If the damage is lethal, it's actually going to increase your damage and your healing overall. And then you also have Endless Mass. This is going to create a spinning obelisk, which basically is your own personal black hole, thus bringing enemies around it right into the center. So if you think about combo powers here, you using Endless Mass to gather everybody around in one spot, and then using Gravity Leap to jump down and slam into them, thus devastating them and destroying a huge wave of enemies, and obviously healing yourself, buffing yourself, and just overall increasing your general badassery here is overall an exciting thing to see. For their skill trees, you've got the Vanquisher, the Warden, and Seismic Shifter. So a Vanquisher is all going to be about close range combat. Bonuses are going to be impacted to your shotguns and your rifles. The Warden is the ultimate tank. This is going to be up and close and personal with many, many defensive buffs and everything that increases your survivability. Then you have Seismic Shifter. This is going to actually take the focus to more of a mid-range combat and really kind of improve skills like Impale and your damage over time abilities. And finally, that brings us to the Technomancer. Again, focusing in on long-range combat, focusing on that lone wolf mindset, being able to conjure weapons out of thin air, generally being an awesome all-around jack-of-all-trades kind of class. So the fundamentals for this class are for players who really want to have a large amount of versatility and support. They can heal themselves, they can heal their teammates, they can interrupt bosses, they can have great crowd control. This is going to be great for classes who want to be that lone wolf and who are great with sniper rifles and long-range weapons. For their melee, they actually have a freeze status effect, which is going to stop enemies in their tracks, thus allowing you to get out of that area of effect and set yourself up for better positionals. Then regarding their healing, you actually heal by leeching life from enemies. So this is just doing damage on enemies is going to heal you, thus making healing a very key part to the Technomancer's gameplay loop. For their powers, here's a couple examples. You have Tools of Destruction. This is going to have you activate the skill via button press, and it's going to give you a rocket launcher. But you can change up the skill. If you hold it down, you'll actually get a chain gun, which is going to help do even more damage. The cool thing about the rocket launcher is is it can actually interrupt enemy skills. So as long as it's not on cooldown, it's going to be a perfect ability to kind of help, kind of control bosses and things like that. Then you have Fixing Wave. So if you want to play more of a supporter or healer, this is going to be a really good skill for you. It's the only power in Outriders that will heal you, your machines, and your friends. So keep in mind, Fixing Wave is a very critical skill if you need it. Then in terms of like your additional quote unquote pets, if you're thinking of it like this, you have Pain Launcher. This is going to create an auto defense device that's going to damage enemies independently. You also have Blighted Turret. This is going to create a turret on the ground, and it's also going to do toxic dot damage to different enemies over time. And then you also have Cold Snap. This is going to be a large area of effect skill, and it's going to freeze enemies in place. For the Technomancer, you have 3 trees as always. You have Pestilence, you have Tech Shaman, and you have the Demolisher. The Pestilence is going to focus around decay and damage, increasing your damage over time with guns, and more specifically with sniper rifles and other rifles. Then you have your Tech Shaman. This is going to focus in around indirect damage and healing. So you have a skill in this case that's going to be called Overclock. This is going to increase your damage with skills significantly and boost your turrets, your healing, and your freeze effects. Then finally, you have Demolisher. This is going to be your jack of all trades, allowing you to use different ordinances and skills, and those are all going to be enhanced by this tree. You will also have the ability to inflict toxic to anyone that you hit with a melee attack. So again, your melee attack by default is a freezing ability, but then if you go with the jack of all trades Demolisher, you'll end up having it with also a toxic effect. So you'll freeze them and you'll dot them with some damage over time. So to summarize these 3 classes, if you're more of a solo player, you're going to want to check out the Technomancer, and it's going to offer you the most versatility in healing and survivability with long-range gameplay. Now, though, if you're also somebody who maybe is a little bit more setting the pace of battle, generally kind of a tank or somebody who likes to charge ahead full force, then I would encourage you to check out the Devastator. This is going to be a great class if you like to be in the thick of combat. Now, if you're more of a tactical player, the Trickster and the Pyromancer are going to be really kind of where your decision lies. Now, which one's the best one for you? Well, if you like to be and bounce around between up close and personal and mid-range combat, focusing on the Trickster. Otherwise, if you love setting things on fire, and who doesn't, you like putting on a lot of AoE damage and crowd control, you want to make sure you bring a Pyromancer with you on your adventure, especially with that self-res that you'll have. It's going to make you an asset to your team in case things just really go wrong, or if nothing else, it's just going to help give you that extra, oh no moment, oh no roll occasionally with that regards. Now that wraps it up for this guide. I really appreciate you so much for watching. Like I said, my name is Brian and this is Ginger Prime. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. And if you did and you feel like I've earned it and I've earned your subscription, let me know in the comments below so that I can officially welcome you to the Soul Nation. But with that, I hope you have a great day and I hope to see you in my next video. But until then, take care. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.